I would like to brief you all a bit on yesterday's session regarding the excavation activity. As we discussed yesterday, we will be starting the excavation activity with the central line marking. And the very first drawing you will be referring for the marking of central lines is your column layout, which will be having your grid lines, both vertical and horizontal, along with your column positions with perfect references of your columns from the grid lines. So guys, you will be beginning with marking of your first vertical grid as well as first horizontal grid with respect to one corner of your property. Okay, and on marking the first vertical and horizontal grids, you will be starting to offsetting the vertical grids with the given dimensions as well as offsetting the horizontal grids with the given dimensions. This is how you achieve transferring the grid lines, central lines that is given in the drawings into the site. Okay, so on transferring the grid lines, then you will be marking your column locations just for the reference. Once achieving marking the column locations, you will be moving further for marking of your excavation area. As we discussed yesterday, see, this particular magenta line is the extent of your concrete and this cyan line is the extent of your PCC. How it is referring to the section at that location. This will be the extent of your footing concrete and this will be the extent of your leveling course PCC. And you will be requiring additional working space all around your footing to do the execution activity. Since this will be a pit of 2.5 meters deep, you cannot execute the excavation activity standing on the ground surface. Hence, you will be requiring some working space to walk all around your footing. And in practice, we will be allocating say some 300 mm from the PCC extent. Accordingly, the same 300 mm is being offset. Just like this cyan colored line is your PCC extent, and we will be extending an addition of 300 mm all around your PCC. So this is the planned excavation area that needs to be marked. But you can notice here, this is your property line and a portion is still being projecting out, which is not acceptable. See, to some extent, if the land next to this property line, if it is vacant, if no construction activity, if no structure is already built here, then with the permission of that owner, you can encroach inside his property a bit for excavation, but you cannot extend your construction activity like laying of PCC or laying of your footing concrete cannot be encroached outside your property line. If the outside of your property line is still vacant, no building is already built, with the permission of neighboring owner, you can encroach into his property just for excavation, just for working space. That's it. Otherwise, you cannot extend any of your execution structural activity outside your property line. Having said that, if at all there is a already existing building next to this property line, then you will have to be raised this concern, because without working space you cannot do anything here. You will have to be raising this concern to the structural engineer or architect. What they will be doing, they will be doing an eccentric footing. They will be moving this footing in such a way that they will be providing you the enough working space. Now this is well within your property line. So if at all you are not getting any working space at site with the given foundation layout, you will have to be raised that concern to the concerned engineer. He will be revising his area. That is up to his design intent. He can do anything. He can do eccentric type of footing, or he can even combine these two footings, something like that. But ultimately what you will be requiring as an end user, you will be requiring working space inside your property to execute this footing. So this is how that is being tackled in the practical scenarios. This is, I mean, you should be asking him. Unless otherwise you ask him, they will not be knowing the constraint you are facing at the site level. So this, I mean, you will have to be raising an RFI. RFI is a official process wherein you will be raising the queries from the site to the concerned consultants, and he will be modifying his design intent, earlier design intent, and he will be sharing back you the revised foundation drawings for you to execute at the site level. So this being one thing. This is when there is no basement activity. See, if we can notice here, ground floor is the last accessible level, and there is no access below the ground. No provision for basement or cellar is made in the structure. What if there is a provision for a basement? If there is a provision for a basement, what you need to be doing is you need to be digging everything. Just like if we can take up. See, this is a excavation drawing of a different project where this is apartment of G+16 with a cellar provision for the car parking. This being your EGL at site, 8.7 meters, your ground floor level will be raised from the road level or from the existing ground level to 10.3 meter level. Thereby, you are raising your ground floor level by say 0.7, 1.2 meters. There is a level difference of 1.2 meters from existing ground level to the ground floor level, actual ground floor level. And this will be your say 10.3 minus of 6.8, 3.5 meters will be the level difference between your basement floor as well as your ground floor. This is the floor to floor height at this particular level. So friends, having said that, to achieve this 3.5 meters, you are raising your ground floor say up to 1.2 meters from the existing ground level, and you will have to be going down by say another 2.3 meters. You will have to be digging down by say another 2.3 meters, and that too in the entire area. Here you will be doing a local excavation only around your columns just to execute your footings. But in this case, you will have to be reaching down, entire area has to be reaching down for achieving the cellar or basement floor, and hence complete property will be digged down by say 2.4 meters in one single shot. And after reaching your basement floor, you will be executing a local excavation again for reaching down to your footing bottom level. Just like how we executed here at ground floor level itself. The similar, this we will be usually nomenclating as a local excavation, because you will be only excavating locally all around your columns. Whereas here, you will be excavating complete area of your property to reach down till your basement floor level. And again, once you reach down till your basement floor level, you will again start your local excavation to reach down to your foundation bottom level. This will be your foundation bottom level, say 1.5 meters from your basement floor level. So this is how the excavation happens when there is a provision of basement floor is made. Okay. See, here the condition of soil is not very good, and hence you will have to be providing a slope. No vertical cuts like this. Here, if you can notice, the pit excavation is done vertically. It is cut vertically. The excavation will be like this. When you excavate, the complete pit will be generated, inside which you will be moving all around to execute your footing activity. Once footing, column and plinth beam is done and proper curing activity is done, you will be backfilling the excavated soil. So here the excavation is done as a vertical cut. Whereas if you can notice here, a slope mentioning 1:2 is proposed so that no soil will fail under shear and no collapse of or caving of soil will happen. If the soil condition was good, the suggestion would have been the straight vertical cut, and based on the soil consultant recommendations, the structural engineer will be proposing you how exactly the cut or the excavation cut should be done, whether it is a vertical cut or it is a slope cut. See, here he has clearly mentioned a slope of 1:2 has to be maintained. Okay, if not, what happens? This soil will not be stable anymore. It will go unstable and it will be failing under shear. Some portion of the soil will be failing and it will be collapsing down and it will be encroaching into your working space. To avoid that, we will be suggesting for a slope cut. See, encroaching into your working space is not a big issue. You can add in much more labors and clear that space for your working. But the major issue will happen is this will be somebody else's property. The moment the soil here collapses and falls down, every other soil adjacent to that area will go loose, and it is a threat to the structure. If it is already existing, if it is a threat to that structure, chances of collapsing of that structure or any undesirable vibrations or deformations can be expected because of the soil getting loose. And hence it is very, very important while doing excavation activity next to your property line. You will have to be carefully reading the structural drawings, how exactly he has given you, whether it is a vertical cut or it is a slope cut. Okay. Next, moving further, this is the excavation drawing of a different project where the soil condition is even worse. And guys, this is the extent of your property and this is the extent of your setback, and hence here you will be executing your retaining wall work for reaching down to your basement floor. If you can notice, there will be piles, RCC piles in this fashion. This will be a RCC pile, will be bored in first. You can notice these are all RCC piles, and this is pure concrete piles. See, every alternate piles is an RCC, and every alternate pile is a pure concrete pile. So this fashion, you will be boring in the piles first. After that, you will be starting your excavation activity. First, you are properly safeguarding the soil before cutting it, so that if at all there is a property already, I mean, if at all there is a structure already built in your neighbor property, that will not get disturbed. The equilibrium of that structure will not get disturbed. If at all the soil is very loose and you start digging without proper precautionary measures, the moment you start digging here, the soil here may fall down, may collapse down. Thereby it is loosening the soil adjacent to it, and the structure already existed in the neighbor property will definitely go into undesirable deformations or vibrations. You are liable for illegal activity. I mean, you are liable for charges under illegal activity sections because of this mistake what you have done. This will not be termed as mistakes, this will be termed as blunders actually. Okay, and this we will be terming, nomenclating as shoring methodologies or soil protection methodologies. We will be employing before executing the excavation activity for reaching down to the basement floors. Okay, I think some briefing on excavation activity is done to you guys. It is one being the local excavation activity, and with very good soil you can go deep down with vertical cut, and another being a different project where there is a provision for basement or cellar with not so good soil. You are going with a slope in the excavation cut, thereby you are not disturbing the soil in the neighbor property, and you are achieving your excavation till the basement floor. Okay, and one more project where we looked at the soil condition is very bad and direct excavation is not at all possible without disturbing the soil in the neighbor property. So disturbing the soil in the neighbor property is nothing but you are up to collapse that building that is already built in the neighbor property. Hence, even before taking up the excavation activity inside your property, you will be driving in the piles all around your property, completely safeguarding the soil near the neighbor property, and you will be start excavating the soil inside your property till you reach down your basement floor. Okay, and so having said that, that is some briefing that I wanted to discuss with you on excavation activity and all the substructure activities. So moving forward, as we discussed yesterday, I'll be starting with the conventional shuttering system before getting into the My1 shuttering schemes. I will also be dealing, main agenda of mine is to deal with the My1 shuttering schemes, but even before knowing what exactly the conventional shuttering is, there is no idea. Guys, if there are any queries regarding the excavation activity, you can go ahead now before moving into the conventional shutterings. Anybody? If there are no queries, we will be moving forward with conventional shuttering system. Guys, please a silent room before asking any questions. Sachin? Okay. Okay. With no questions, we will be continuing with conventional shuttering systems. Friends, if you can look at here, this structure is designed such a way that the loading on this floor guys, I have been intimated that there is a question regarding excavation. Let's take it up in the end. Now we will be moving forward on the conventional shuttering systems. Okay. Guys, this structure is designed such a way that any loading on this slab, like loading of your furniture, loading of the human beings on this slab, will be transferred into these beams. Thereby it is being transferred into the columns at each and every levels. This is when the structure is built and ready to use. But what is or how exactly it is when the structure is being constructed? So your columns will be not completely cured or not completely aged to take up the design loadings. We all know that for an RCC, it requires 28 days for reaching its complete strength. And you will have to be not loading your structure, not loading your RCC element until it's aged for 28 days. But in practice, see, from a floor to floor, the execution duration may be just 15 days. Once you complete your first floor, within 15 days, the second floor casting will happen, and within another 15 days, the third floor casting will be happen. Then how exactly the loading is being transferred? Where exactly it get transferred? And even at the time of concreting, how exactly your mold is being supported? Friends, that is a very important chapter or concept which every engineer need to understand, which every engineer need to be aware of to avoid any accidents at site during the execution process. We have witnessed in many places the molds themselves being fallen down without proper care, and loss of many construction workers as well as the site engineers has taken place just because of negligence there. moving forward without proper care taken for the supporting of your mold. So that is the very important concept I would like to discuss with you. And to begin with, this is a shuttering scheme design or your supporting of your mold design. What is a mold? Mold is nothing but upon which you will be pouring your concrete. This is your concrete and this will be your mold. So the mold is nothing but upon which you will be pouring in your concrete. You will have to be properly supporting this mold. Otherwise, during the process of concreting, if this mold fails, the construction workers above this mold as well as the site engineers above or below this mold will be losing their life. So designing and precautions taking for the supporting of this mold at the time of concreting is very important, friends. And that's why we will be looking into the shuttering scheme designs, which is designing of your mold supporting. To begin with, consider this is your ground floor level and there is no basement is provisioned. See, at plinth level, you will be having plinth beams all round, and inside you will be raising your level with respect to the formed road level by say another 450 or 600 mm sometimes. So in order to raise, you will be filling up this area with the help of outside available soil. On filling, you will be compacting it either by rolling with the help of baby rollers or by stagnating the water. Friends, but if you are placing your props, these vertical members that is supporting your mold, if you are placing your props directly on the filled up soil, chances may be there it is not properly compacted, and the moment it is being laid over the filled up soil without any proper precautions, at the time of execution, if these props are settled down inside the backfilled soil, you can start witnessing the cracks. If not your mold failing, you can start witnessing the cracks after removing your mold, after de-shuttering your mold. Hence, at ground floor level, guys, you cannot directly support your vertical props on your filled up soil. Either first on compacting that filled up soil thoroughly, and see how will you say that thoroughly? How will you make sure that the soil is compacted thoroughly? Is you will be conducting a test at site level called Proctor density test, which we will be conducting in the soil mechanics lab. What exactly it is? You will be taking up undisturbed sample of the soil that is compacted, and you will be conducting a test on that. And if that test result is achieved for 95% or more than that, we may say that that compacted earth is properly compacted. Okay, but even after making sure the proper compactedness of that soil, you cannot risk laying your vertical props directly on your soil. What you will have to be doing, either you will be starting the activity of laying the PCC first above that soil and then laying your props, or you can do one more thing. This being your plinth layout, you can raise or you can span the steel members from plinth beam to plinth beam, and above which you can place in your vertical members, just like this. one steel member will be placed, one more steel member will be placed at a calculated spacing, and you can situate your vertical members somewhere here. See, this being your vertical member in plan, you can support it somewhere like this. This will be the one option, or otherwise you can properly lay the PCC under the completely compacted earth. See, we will be usually putting a node called compacted earth, and you will be ensuring the thoroughness of this compacted earth by executing a test called Proctor density test, and if it is passing the permissible result value, then you will be laying the PCC above that. Only after that you can support your vertical members, or otherwise you can span in the steel members from plinth beam to plinth beam, and after that you can support your vertical props. See, again, this shall not be any wooden locks. This has to be a proper steel member. Okay. So moving forward, this is how the arrangement will be. Your concrete slab concrete will be laid on a mold that will be termed as centering sheets, and below that centering sheets there will be a steel spans. That steel spans will be supported on these vertical props, steel props, what we term them as. See, in plan, this is how the arrangements will be. These are all your vertical steel props, and the circle dots are vertical steel props, and these dotted lines are indicating these steel runners. The dotted lines are indicating these steel runners. Okay. See, this is nothing but a column beam arrangement, similar way, and your MS centering sheet is nothing but like a slab which will be taking all the loading. And again, this has to be properly analyzed before conducting the execution activity. Okay. And this is how the supporting system for your beam concrete mold. There will be a runner above which your beam side faces will be placed, and above which your concreting will be done. See, such a fashioned system will be provided when the beam is too wide. When the beam, say, it is more than 400 mm wide, then you cannot use in only one vertical prop. So there will be a two number of vertical props on either ends. If at all it is just a 200 or 230 wide beam, you can just make use of one single prop underneath it. Okay. Next, moving forward, we are taking up the analysis of your shuttering supporting system or mold supporting system. Okay. See, first and foremost, we will be calculating the construction loads. That is the only load that can happen, that can be anticipated at the time of construction. Okay. What are all those construction loads? They are dead loads of wet concrete, and self weight of centering sheets. In addition to that, there will be live loads of construction workers. Dead loads of the wet concrete will be calculated by calculating its volume and multiplying it with the density. You will be achieving the dead weight of wet concrete. You will be directly considering the live load of construction worker, say 125 kg per square meters, and all together with additional buffer of 30%, factor of safety of 30%, you will be arriving, say, loading of 792.5 kg per square meters. Okay. This is the final construction loading that can happen in this particular site. Okay. Next, moving further, we will be first checking the safety of this slab supporting system, slab mold. We are starting with checking the safety of this slab mold. Okay, and I have few photographs of that. So this is how the mold supporting arrangement will be done at site levels. See, this will be your vertical props. This will be your steel runners. In this side, they have used this wooden logs as runners, which should not be. And this is somewhere I found it. And if I would have been the engineer in charge to approve this, I would have never approved this, because we cannot say what is the capacity, load carrying capacity of this wooden log. Whether if at all it is a steel log, steel member, we would have directly obtained its capacity from the vendor. He will be having a tabulated sheet which tells us the final load carrying capacity of, or the safe load carrying capacity of these steel members. And with that, we can conclude, okay, this is the actual loading happening on this steel member, and the safe load carrying capacity is so much, and hence it is safe. But when it comes for wooden members, even after arriving to the actual loading that can happen over this wooden log, we will not be knowing what is the capacity of loading it can take. Hence, without knowing its capacity, we cannot approve saying it is safe. Okay. So avoid using these wooden logs. In this particular project, we have made use of (25 by 25) L angles with 5 thick. There will be 4 number of 25 by 25 L angles replacing those wooden logs all around the centering sheets. These will be your centering sheets. This is your centering sheets. Instead of these wooden logs, there will be 25 by 25 L angles which will be containing this centering sheet all round. Okay, that is how it has to be practiced, a good engineering practice. Okay. Next, moving forward, again, the size of your centering sheet will be 900 by 600. This size will be 900 by 600. And the arrangement of your steel beams below your centering sheets is done in this spacing, 900 and 1.35 meters. So you will be calculating your loadings accordingly. The loading arrived from the construction load calculation is so much, and you will be dividing all of this 792.48 divided by 900 or 0.9 into 0.6 and divided by 4 numbers. You will be achieving so much of loadings. Division of 792 by 900 by 600 by 4, you will be achieving so much of loading. And with this load in hand, with 900 as your span, you will be calculating your bending moment. So this will be the section modulus you will be again calculating, and the actual section modulus is 4.13 from the vendor. For this specification of the L angle, the capacity of the section modulus is 4.13, but the required section modulus is 2.9 for the generated moment. Hence, the arrangement is safe. Okay. With this construction loading, you will be calculating your bending moment that is generated on your shunting seat supporting L angles. So for this bending moment, the section modulus that is required is 2.9, but the actual section modulus capacity of your L angles is 4.1. Hence it is very safe. So you can definitely approve that shuttering scheme. Moving forward, for your beam, again with this calculated construction loading, you will be dividing the spans, that 0.9 and 1.3, and you will be arriving to the bending moment. For this bending moment, the required section modulus is 9.788, but the capacity of the section modulus, that is being the capacity of the members of the section modulus that is supporting your beam shuttering scheme, is 45. Hence it is again very safe. You can definitely approve this system also. Again, you will be checking the safety of the vertical props. That means you will be checking whether the number of vertical props provided is sufficient to carry all of these loadings. Whether it is sufficient to carry all of these loadings. Friends, the very easy method to calculate the loading on each and every prop is like, this will be the area that is contributing the load on this prop. The center and the center distance, center to center of all these spans will be the area that will be contributing loading on this particular prop. See, having said that, 1.35 by 0.9 will be the area that will be contributing the loading on this particular prop. If you come here, it will be 1.35 by 2. 0.675 by 0.9, because 0.45 upwards, 0.45 downwards, it will be altogether 0.9 into 0.675, which is 1.35 by 2, will be the area that will be contributing the loading on this particular prop. So you can able to calculate the loading of, if you can able to calculate the loading of 1, 2 and 3, it is more than sufficient. Here it is just 0.45 by 0.675. This will be the area that will be contributing the loading onto this prop. In the central props, the area that will be contributing is 1.35 by 0.9. This, in the edges, the area that will be contributing is 0.9 by 1.35. With that area, and if you can multiply that area with this construction loading, you will be achieving the loading that is going to happen on your prop. That is 1.35 into 0.9 into 792.5 will be 962 kgs. Almost around 1000 kgs will be the loading on one particular prop. And they say here that the capacity of that prop is 2000 257 kgs. That particular prop can withstand the loading up to 2257 kgs. Whereas the actual loading happening on that prop is just 100 kgs. You can very easily approve even this system. Friends, again, I would like to brief you on one particular note here. See, this prop, you can extend it a bit upwards by using this jack system. The capacity of these props when it is closed will be different, when it is extended will be different. As the length increases, the capacity of the prop will be decreasing. See, the closed height is 1.5, the extended height is 2.75. The capacity of the prop when it is closed is 3200 kgs, and the capacity of the prop when it is extended is 2300 kgs. Okay, so it will go slightly unstable when it is extended upwards. It will go slightly slender when it is extended upwards, and all of this steel section will be getting degraded by its capacity when it starts getting slender. When the slenderness ratio of the steel members, if it is increasing, the load carrying capacity of the section or member will start decreasing. So that is why they will be suggesting two different capacities, one being when it is closed, another being when it is extended. Okay, so if it is really extending, then you will have to be starting to brace the props laterally. You will have to be tying the props laterally to cut its height, so that it is not even after completely stretched out, extended out, it can carry the loading that is equivalent to your full capacity, closed capacity. So, and also it will help for the avoiding of vertical movements. If these horizontal bracings or ties is not provided, you can easily shake off these vertical props. Only on providing these horizontal bracings, you can avoid the vibration or shaking of this vertical props. So this is some introduction or some briefing how exactly your conventional shuttering happens, and how exactly the precautions you need to be taking care. You need to be taking, and what are all the checks you need to be doing. See, all of these calculations will have to be done by the contractor or a site engineer, and this calculations has to be sent or has to be shared with the structural engineer in charge of that project. He has to approve the scheme. Only on his approval you can start your execution activity. And also along with this, you will have to be proposing method statements just like this. You will be clearly indicating each and every tools, materials you are using, and how exactly you are starting the execution and how exactly you are going to end that execution. Each and everything to be documented, the complete procedure to be documented, and to be handed over to the structural engineer or any consultant who is concerned with this job, and it has to be approved before it is being executed at site level. Okay, and these are all some good practices we can follow to avoid the construction accidents that can happen, that has already happened, and that has already costed many lives. Okay, and that is all about a little briefing that I wanted to give you all on conventional shuttering system. And tomorrow we will be starting, not tomorrow, on Monday we will be starting with MyOne technologies and how exactly the MyOne shuttering project will start, what are all the coordination challenges that every designer faces at the coordination stage or even before releasing the execution drawings to site. See, here in MyOne technology, this is more of design driven technology, and the execution part is very simple here. The complete challenge is for the designers in the MyOne technology. It has to be completely coordinated, very thoroughly checked, very thoroughly coordinated, and only then it has to be shared to the site for the execution. No margin of errors here because everything is RCC walls in MyOne system, MyOne construction. Every wall is RCC wall. Every internal or partition wall is an RCC wall. Every wall is a load bearing RCC wall. You cannot easily break or damage these walls without the permission of structural engineer, and this being very economical for structures with G+20. Okay, if you are executing the MyOne structure for G+5, G+6, it will not be that efficient. This system will be very efficient when the structure is more than G+20. And with that, if you are asking your structural engineer, can I puncture something in this wall? Nobody will accept because that particular wall may be supporting the loading of 20 stories, which nobody will agree to. So each and everything, every electrical wiring, every electrical socketing, every plumbing activity, plumbing points need to be properly coordinated in the beginning. No service activity will be changed or redesigned after execution of the RCC works. Whereas in your conventional shuttering, you will be only building your columns, executing your beams and slabs in one single stretch, after which you will be executing the block works. You are free to do n number of punctures into that block work walls. But that is not the scenario with your MyOne in place. Here, every wall is a load bearing RCC wall, whereas here the wall is just a partition wall. The purpose of this wall will be just for partitioning the occupancies, where the main load bearing system will be your slab, beams and columns, and no load will be transferred on your walls. Here the case is entirely different. There is no beam column system here. Every member is your load bearing member, and you cannot easily puncture any wall after execution. So even before taking up the execution activity, you will have to be properly coordinating with each and every consultant. Everything need to be freezed in the design level. Only after freezing your coordination, only after checking with all aspects, you can issue the GFC drawings to the site. Okay. So on Monday, we will be discussing on this MyOne technology, and we will be only left with PEB activity, which we will be taking up on Tuesday. Okay. So we can start in our interaction session now. If anybody having any queries or questions regarding this session, can definitely go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
In designing those angles, L angles, which you said, for which act as beams to shuttering.
Yes.
So the analysis is very similar to that of beams, right, sir?
Exactly. It will be very similar to your beams. Analysis will be very similar to your structural analysis. Okay. Even here you will be calculating your loads, calculating your bending moment, and with that bending moment you will be arriving to your section modulus. Okay, you will be arriving to the section modulus that is required. You are comparing this section modulus with the permissible safe section modulus for that particular section.
Okay,
If
okay.
the required section modulus is less than permissible, it is safe.
Okay, sir. And one more thing, while designing these spandrel beams, do we consider the impact of torsion on that?
See, obviously, what is your spandrel beam, first of all?
It is the edge beams, peripheral beams of a structural system.
No, when exactly you will name it as a spandrel? Hello?
Yeah, sir. According to my understanding, I feel those are the peripheral beams which are present at the periphery of slab.
No. See, when your beam is too deep, you will be terming it as a deep beams. Okay, it will be like 200 by 1200 depth. Okay, such a huge beams will be termed as spandrels.
Okay, sir.
Okay, and having said that, the torsion, your main question is about the torsion, correct?
Yes.
See, the torsion will be induced on the beam for various reasons. One particular reason being, see here, the spanning of this slab is quite less, whereas the spanning of this slab is more compared to this slab. Am I correct? If we term this as slab 1 and this as slab 2, the spanning of slab 1 is lesser compared to that of slab 2. See, this is not just a simple support. This beam will not be acting just a simple support for both of these slabs. There will be a behavior of continuous system. Thereby, there will be a pulling activity done at this junction. This slab will not be easily deflected. As this slab started deflecting, the other part of the slab will be starting to pulling it back. In this activity, there will be a generation of moment which is greater towards this span and lesser towards slab 1. Because of this unevenness, there will be a torsion that is developing and the twist will be towards the longer span.
Okay.
This is one kind of torsion that can be anticipated. The other one being, this is the edge beam. Okay. Due to some reasons, due to some design constraints, you cannot design this slab as a simple supported slab. For designing it, the bending moment calculation formula will be WL square by 8. For designing it as a simple support, the bending moment calculation formula will be WL square by 8. So to accommodate that heavier bending moment, the thickness of the slab will be more. The thickness demand of this slab may be more. To restrict the thickness, you can take the advantage of this beam and you can consider this support as fixed. See, whether to consider the support as fixed or simple support, it will be decided by that particular designer. The way he idealizes it, the way he designs it, and the way he details it. All of these three should lie in the same line. Only then the execution or the behavior will be proper. If I am idealizing this slab as a fixed support on this beam, then the bending moment that will be generated in the top in this junction will be WL square by 12, and the bending moment that will be generated in the bottom will be WL square by 24. 24 will be much lesser than your 8 when it is in the denominator. When it is simple support, the bottom bending moment will be WL square by 8. When it is fixed support, the bottom bending moment will be WL square by 24. So almost the bending moment that is generated when it is fixed moment will be 3 times lesser at the bottom. But it cannot vanish like that easily. It will be created in the top of these junctions. To cater into this additional bending moment created at the top, you will be providing that required reinforcement, and that required reinforcement need to be anchored into this beam with LD, with that development length. Only then this junction will be a perfect fixed support junction. When you make this junction as perfect fixed support junction, definitely there will not be any contribution of loading from the other side because it is a vacant area. There will be a loading contribution from this slab, and there will be a twist to this side. There will be creation of torsion. Okay?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Have you followed?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Guys, if any questions, you can unmute yourself and go with your question. You can now unmute yourself. If any questions. And Kushal, can you have a look at on chat box? Like we have 2 or 3 questions from. One is from Abhishek Gowda. What about economy when comparing the two technology?
See, there is a question from Mr. Hafridi. Don't you think use of alternative to concrete and RCC piles, which can lead to uneconomical, and provide any other solution? Okay. See, we will be first of all going into this basement activity only when the land value is too high. If at all I am constructing a hotel or a shopping mall somewhere in Majestic, I don't mind going 3 floors down for car parking. That only if I am planning to build a hotel somewhere in the highway between Bangalore to Mysore, where the land value is very less compared to the land value in Majestic, I would not even go for investing to go deep down. What I'll be doing? I'll be purchasing additional land, thereby I can manage even the car parks and every space that I'll be requiring for the execution of my hotel or my shopping mall. Whereas in the center of Majestic, the availability of the land will be very less. The value of that particular land will be very high. Going deep down to the basement will be much lesser when you compare that with the land value price. So definitely it will be costlier, this system, but you can't help. With the condition of the soil and with the condition that already there is an existing structure, if you are risking to protect your soil, then you will be under much more trouble. So you will be comparing all the aspects of finance before taking up this project. And there is no, see, there are n number of methodologies, but considering the deep your depth of excavation you are going, if at all you are placing some wooden logs here, considering if you are going say 3 basement floors down, deep down, with that heavier loading, your wooden logs may break down easily, or your metal sheets may easily getting breakdown. So to avoid all of that loading, considering every economic or financial aspects, this system is planned. Okay. I think the
Santosh, you have raised a hand. I think you have text. Okay, okay. Kushal, we have a question from Santosh that can we provide sheet files instead of the RCC ones?
see, that's it. It depends upon the depth of your excavation. Sheet piles is economical or is safe, only safe for about, for example, only safe for about 3 to 4 meters excavation depth. What if your excavation depth is 20 meters? In order to accommodate the car park of 3 levels, in order to accommodate the basement of 3 levels, you will have to be going deep down, say by 20 meters or say by 15 meters, where your sheet pile will no more be safe. And depending upon or comparing on all of these aspects, persons will be, or the consultants will be suggesting these concrete piles. This is one of the project where the soil condition or the loading from the soil is very high. No sheet pile can take off that loading, and hence the secant piles or concrete, plain concrete and RCC concrete piles is being proposed and executed, after which they have considered the, or they have started excavation activity. See, in some places, even in this project, we have done soil nailing activity, where even after going with a slope cut, we are nailing in the rods, steel rods into the soil. This is one of the ground improvement technique with which no shear failure of your slope will happen, and this slope will stand stable until you construct your retaining wall next to it. Okay, but all of these decisions will be made on proper analysis. A soil consultant or a soil consultant, geotechnical consultant or a soil consultant will be coming into the picture. He will be conducting a proper analysis of this soil slope. What are the loadings? What is the exact loading that is happening here? And with the magnitude of that loading, suitable precautionary measures will be taken. Okay, I hope this question is being resolved. And technology when compared, question from Abhishek. I think Abhishek has raised a question. What about economy when comparing the two technology? I don't get what exactly the two technology you are referring here. Is it between MY1 and conventional shuttering, Mr. Abhishek? Mr. Abhishek, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What are the two technologies are you referring here? Is it between MY1 and conventional shuttering?
Yes, sir. MY1 and
Can you please speak little louder?
Yes, sir, MY1 and conventional technology.
Okay. Mr. Abhishek, when you start comparing the costing, see, you will have to be considering all of the aspects. You cannot say what is cost, which is costly, which is cheap. We can answer this question in a way that which is more efficient, which system is more efficient for that particular project. Say the client, the builder is very aggressive. The builder has committed to deliver the project to his customers, say within very less time. He has committed to deliver or handing over these flats to the customer in a very less time. See, with that, what he is also achieving is, for the loan he is taking, he is avoiding the interest on that. That is the first point, because less number of duration, less number of interest. And these loans will be in crores together when they are taking up such a huge projects. So the first advantage is by avoiding the duration, you will be avoiding the rate of interest. I mean, you will be reducing the rate of interest to the loan you are taking it. Then say when the your competitor is already offering to hand over a flat to his customer, say by 2.5 or 3 years with the conventional shuttering system, and you want to grab those customers for you. If you want to grab those customers for you, you will obviously have to be offering with much lesser time and with much lesser cost. Either of the two shall be employed. Either you will have to be announcing that you will be handing over the flat to the customer with much lesser time compared to that of your competitor, or with much lesser price compared to that of your competitor. So this MyOne system will be very fast. You can execute one particular floor in a stretch of every 7 days. Whereas your conventional shuttering system, you will be hardly requiring 15 days to execute each floor levels. So almost the time duration will be reduced by half. That is one advantage here. And again, the rest of the activity, executing your block works, executing the groove cutting for accommodating your pipes, service pipes, everything will not happening here. Every services will be laid into these shutterings even before you concrete. So all of those activities will be done. After execution, the only thing you will be doing is you will be starting with the finishing activities. Here, even after execution of the frames, column, beams and slabs, there are n number of activities still left out to complete, but here you can directly take up the finishing activities. So the labor costing will also be reduced at the same time. The time duration will be very fast with MyOne shuttering and whatnot. And the economy of the structural system may be slightly increased by 10 to 15%, but when you consider the overall efficiency, MyOne technology will be definitely worth going for the structures something above G+20. Is it all?
Okay.
Is anything else left?
Sir, sir, though in conventional way of building the buildings, hello,
Hele.
sir, all the loads are though they are dead loads or live loads, sir, they are taken up by columns and beams, then to the footing, no, sir.
Correct.
Sir, in why we go to MyOne technology, sir? Though it is done safely by conventional method only, why we go for the reinforcement in walls also?
See, in the large scale construction, when you are facing labor issues, workmanship issues, and when you want to deliver your project at a higher speed, you will be left with no other choice. You will have to be taking up with the MyOne technology. If at all you want to construct just a G+1 villa for your own use, you definitely need not go in for the MyOne technology. Conventional shuttering system will be very much worth, and execution of MyOne technology will not be able to be done by individual levels. See now how exactly we will be doing for some simple villas is, some mason will come in, he will be having his own bar benders, he will be having his own shuttering team, etc. But you cannot keep in agencies of MyOne for execution of one simple villa just because they are too costly for smaller projects. This systems works only when the project is in a large scale. For such big projects, conventional shuttering system will be very slow and it needs more labors.
Sir, building stories like 20 floors, each and every wall should be reinforced means the labor charges and the materials required will be also more now, sir.
See, there won't be any much labor charges here. Compared to your conventional shuttering, the
Sir,
labors
again, the
required.
bar bending works and the placement of columns one above the other, and again the beams, it will be more cost.
No, no, no. Actually, how exactly it will be done now is these bar bending activity will be done in the factory itself. If you can able to produce the detailed drawing to Jindal Steel or to Tata Steel with all the bar bending schedule prepared, they will be furnishing you or tendering you the the steels with that particular length, bent with that particular shape, and it is directly ready to use at site. When you are going with MyOne technology, obviously the same system will be implemented. You will be not getting the steels from your local shops and having your bar benders at site bending, cutting the bars. That will not be the scenario.
Sir,
It will
if that is the criteria to consider, the conventional system will also becomes quicker, no, sir.
what
Somewhat fast. The conventional way of building the buildings using.
only the bar bending activity will be less. Okay, only the bar bending activity will be less. What is for the construction of these block works?
Sir, how come the conventional one becomes consumes more time? I am asking, sir.
How come conventional system consumes more time?
More time.
Okay. See, for execution of floor to floor, you will be requiring minimum 10 days.
No, sir.
Okay. Whereas in the MyOne system, execution of floor to floor will be say minimum 7 days. After that, even after that, you will be requiring additional time to build in the block works. Whereas in the MyOne system, your walls are already built. And after building the block works, you will have to be grooving the block works to place the pipes for electrical activity or for the plumbing activity. Even after that, you will have to be plastering each and every area. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Whereas in your MyOne system, you will be directly starting with the putty work and painting. Okay? It will be a form finish. After removing your shutterings, you will be directly starting the finishing activities. You have removed all of this activity. And imagine for execution of this work, you will have to be carrying all your building materials till 20th floor. Okay, the transportation of all of those material will also be an impact along with the shuttering material. Here you are transferring only the shuttering material, executing your RCC activity. Once you de-shutter your shuttering material, it is ready to finish.
Okay.
Anything else?
Sir, I think that after learning that MyOne technology, I will be convinced.
After
Learning that MyOne technology.
my dear friend, we are not here to learn in just 1 hour. I'll be giving you a fair idea on what exactly the MyOne technology, okay, for now let us assume you are totally unaware of the MyOne technology, and after Monday's class, you will be getting a fair idea. You will be comparing that with the conventional shuttering system. Now, at least have you convinced with the conventional shuttering system?
Yes, sir.
From today's class?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So any more questions?